Scum villain self-saving system. Extra. Luo and Shen mutually screw over 100 questions. The ones being questioned, Luo Bing x Xiāng Tóngxiù. The one asking the questions, airplane shooting towards the sky. The one supplying the questions, system. Airplane shooting towards the sky system had issued a mission. It was a strange questionnaire. You couldn't tell what exactly the questionnaire was investigating. The further along you went, the more unbearable it became to look at the questions. However, regardless of how unbearable it was to look at, he still had to collect some points, right? Abandoning his dignity. There originally wasn't much left anyway. After pleading with Xiāng Tóngxiù finally reluctantly agreed to bring along the pet that he had raised, the disciple that he had raised, to complete this questionnaire. Consequently, the following was the live rendition of Airplane's interview. Xiāng, may I ask what your name is? Luo Bing had just sat down when he heard this question. He raised an eyebrow and said with displeasure, "If you don't even know my name, then what's the point of this?" Xiāng, what is your age? Truthfully speaking, Xiāng Tóngxiù actually didn't know the definite age of this body. He raised his head up and told Xiāng, "Shouldn't you know that better than I do?" Xiāng rolled his writing brush and inwardly cried. He hadn't thought of this topic before either. Might as well write down whatever then. Hence he randomly wrote down a number. Xiāng, what is your sexuality? Beginning with 3 retarded questions in a row, Luo Bing had already felt it beneath him to answer. Xiāng Tóngxiù couldn't tolerate it anymore either. We're mentioned on the Greenwood Pure Love channel, what do you think? Xiāng silently crossed out over 30 similar bullshit questions on the questionnaire. He once again asked, "May I ask what your personality is like?" Xiāng Tóngxiù thought for a moment and said, "It's okay." Luo Bing, "Don't know." Xiāng, the other person's personality. Xiāng Tóngxiù named them one by one. Crybaby, maiden's heart, love-obsessed mentality, chewinabu, overly intimate, and clingy. Light flickered off the tears in Luo Bing's eyes. He seemed a bit hurt from being disliked, but he still obediently answered the question. Shizun's personality is without a doubt the best. He's both gentle and powerful, and also considerate of others. Xiāng Tóngxiù, what's going on? He suddenly felt a bit guilty. He gave 2 dry coughs before changing his attitude and saying, "Actually, this child's personality is pretty good. He has an excellent trait that's especially hard to come by. Quite obedient, that's enough." Rosy circles appeared on Luo Bing's cheeks. Xiāng dryly said, "When did you 2 meet? Where was it?" He knew the answer to this question. Luo Bing said, "The first time I met Shizun was when I had just passed Kangchong Mountain's entrance exam." Xiāng Tóngxiù felt uncomfortable about this. The one that Luo Bing had met at that time wasn't him, but the original. Moreover, that wasn't a beautiful memory at all. He waved his fan and said, "Pass, pass." Xiāng, what was your first impression of the other person? Luo Bing continued to reminisce and lightly said, "An aloof and remote, distant and untouchable immortal." Xiāng Tóngxiù told it as it was. "A small bun." Quote, "And an Eichmann seedling too?" Xiāng, what do you like about the other person? Xiāng Tóngxiù said with an amiable expression on his face, "He's obedient enough." Luo Bing, I like everything about Shizun. Xiāng, what do you dislike about the other person? Luo Bing firmly said, "Nothing." Xiāng Tóngxiù saw how unhesitant he was when he replied and felt a bit touched. It's proper behavior to return politeness for politeness, and so he also replied with, "Nothing." If he were to actually say what he disliked about him and make him cry in front of outsiders, he'd lose face big time. Xiāng, what do you call the other person? Luo Bing found this question dull and turned his head to say, "Shizun, these questions are really boring. What exactly did we come here to do?" Xiāng Tóngxiù calmly said, "Bing, be nice. Just go through with it." Think of it as saving your Xiāng Tóngxiù's life. Xiāng Tóngxiù, what do you wish the other person would call you? Luo Bing's face reddened. The moment Xiāng Tóngxiù saw him being this bashful, an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. He waved his hand and said, "Pass. Pass, pass, pass." Xiāng Tóngxiù seemed to be at a bursting point as he heckled. "What pass? If you pass for every question, then what's there left to ask? Bing Ge, Shiji, go aed and say it." Luo Bing shot an anxious glance at Xiāng Tóngxiù and then softly said, "Like how a married couple normally calls each other." Xiāng Tóngxiù immediately said, "Shen Bing, Shiji wants to hear you call him husband." "Did you hear that?" Xiāng Tóngxiù said. "You shut up." Xiāng Tóngxiù, if you were to liken them to an animal, what do you think they would be? Luo Bing instantly replied without a moment's thought, "A crane from the forest of endless rain." Xiāng Tóngxiù, I can't think of an animal. I can think of a plant though. "A black lotus," Luo Bing said in puzzlement. "Shizun, there are also black lotuses?" Xiāng Tóngxiù, if you had to send the other person a gift, what would you choose? "What gift would you want?" Luo Bing said. "Shizun only has to say the word and I will offer him anything he wants." Xiāng Tóngxiù honestly said, "It seems like there isn't anything in particular that I want. As a peak lord, there really wasn't anything that was too difficult to obtain." Thinking of this point, he experienced the squandering feeling of sitting atop a mountain of gold while guarding it. Luo Bing said, "Then I want Shizun not to pay attention to anyone else and keep me company for 3 days." Xiāng Tóngxiù licked the tip of his writing brush and muttered, "Why not just have him keep you company for a lifetime?" Luo Bing shook his head and said, "Shizun would be unhappy." Seeing him sullen and looking like a resentful wife, Xiāng Tóngxiù was stupefied. Xiāng Tóngxiù, on the other hand, was utterly unperturbed. "You child, you're thinking foolish things again. There's no reason why Master would be unhappy." Xiāng Tóngxiù, what stage has your relationship progressed to? Xiāng Tóngxiù, the things that should have been done have been done. The things that it shouldn't have been done have also been done. Luo Bing felt wronged as he said, "Why are there things that shouldn't have been done? Could it be that Shizun thinks that we are something that shouldn't have been done?" Xiāng Tóngxiù said, "Not at all. If there really is something that shouldn't be done, Master won't let you do it." Xiāng Tóngxiù, where did the two of you have your first date? Luo Bing, Huanhua Palace Water Prison. Xiāng Tóngxiù, Xiāng Tóngxiù, Bing Ge, you think that was a date? Xiāng Tóngxiù, what was your mood at that time? Luo Bing, not that good. It definitely wasn't something that could be described with just a "not that good." Okay. Xiāng Tóngxiù, a frequent location for a date is. Xiāng Tóngxiù propped his chin up with a hand. The moment I open my eyes, I see him. The moment I close my eyes, I also see him. Does this count as being on a date every hour of every day? Luo Bing cautiously said. Does Shizun find this bothersome? Xiāng Tóngxiù patted his back and said, "Not at all. You're just overthinking it." Xiāng Tóngxiù inwardly cried, "Dating Bing Ge? No, Bing Mei is so tiring." There have only been a couple of questions, but Shen Da has already comforted him 3 times. This whole glass heart shattering then being glued back together, just when will it end? It's damned annoying. Xiāng Tóngxiù seemed like a kindergarten teacher looking after a kid. Xiāng Tóngxiù, which side confessed first? Luo Bing. Me. Xiāng Tóngxiù. Of course it was him. Xiāng Tóngxiù. What does the other person have to do to make you feel like you're at your wit's end? Xiāng Tóngxiù spread his hands out and helplessly said, "The moment he starts weeping without any sign of stopping, I'll feel like I'm at the end of my rope." Luo Bing said, "The moment Shizun gets mad, I feel hopeless." Xiāng Tóngxiù grunted in affirmation and shook his leg. As he recorded, he mentally ridiculed them. As expected, you're just like a kindergartner and a kindergarten teacher. Xiāng Tóngxiù. When the two of you are together, what is the thing that makes your pulse race the most? Luo Bing earnestly said, the times when I get patted on my head and instructed. Shen Qingqiu said, when his face is streaming with tears while he's begging me for something, I guess. Luo Bing followed up with, also the times when I get scolded and hit. He had an intoxicated look on his face. Shen Qingqiu seemed to have gotten used to it already. Shen Qinghua silently added a note next to Luo Bing's name, an incurable M. Shen Qinghua, have you ever lied to the other person? Are you good at lying? The moment he finished asking this question, he confidently wrote, proficient lie teller, these 3 words, under Luo Bing's name. Luo Bing said, yes, but never again. Shen Qinghua, have you ever fought before? What kind of fight was it? Shen Qingqiu sighed and said, we got into quite a violent fight. We fought so much and yet I don't even know what it was for. Luo Bing indignantly said, why are you always asking these questions and making Shizun unhappy for no reason? Shen Qinghua spread his hands out. Blame me then. Shen Qinghua, how did you make up afterwards? Shen Qingqiu waved his hand and said, Pa to save the world. Shen Qinghua, is your relationship publicly known or a secret? Shen Qingqiu asked back, have you heard of regret of Chen Shan? The following questions madly rushed towards their bottom line without end the further along they went. Shen Qinghua cleared his throat. May I ask whether you're the gong or the show? Luo Bing was confused by this. What do you mean? He really didn't understand while Shen Qingqiu pretended not to understand. He waved his fan and said, who knows what he means? Pass, pass, pass. Shen Qinghua, why did you decide on this? Shen Qingqiu mulled over it for a moment. I don't know either. It somehow got decided somewhere down the line. Probably because he looked pitiful? Luo Bing doubtfully said, I still don't understand what's being asked. Shen Qingqiu patted his head, then sincerely and earnestly said, it's fine if you don't understand. In any case, you're not losing out on anything. Shen Qinghua, where did you first have intimate skin-on-skin contact? Shen Qingqiu was just about to reply when Luo Bing beat him to it and said, Qingjing Peak. Shen Qingqiu, buried. Luo Bing once again rushed to answer, Qingjing Peak Bamboo House. Shen Qingqiu thought to himself, alright, Luo Bing would never admit to such a failure of a first time. If he wants it to be Qingjing Peak, then it's Qingjing Peak. There's no point in arguing over this. Let's just go along with his answer and forget about correcting it. Shen Qinghua, what was your impression at that time? Shen Qingqiu didn't make a sound. If he were to tell the truth, then there would only be 3 words. Pain, pain, pain. Saying that in front of other people would greatly reduce Luo Bing's reputation. Luo Bing dejectedly said, Shizun was really good, but I was really useless. Shen Qinghua, on the morning of your first time, what was your first sentence? Luo Bing, Shizun, breakfast is ready. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Shen Qingqiu, don't say anything else. First put on your clothes. Shen Qinghua, how many times do you have intercourse each month? Shen Qingqiu found this outrageous. Who has so much time on their hands that they would count this kind of thing? Also, why are the questions constantly progressing towards a very strange direction? Luo Bing seriously said, approximately speaking, 1 night in 3 days. If Shizun is happy, then occasionally I'll be allowed to touch him again after just 2 days. Shen Qinghua bit the shaft of his writing bush and then muttered as he recorded the answer. This isn't right. Based on my settings, there shouldn't be a problem even if he were to do it non-stop from the start of the month to the end of the month. Shen Qinghua, generally speaking, the location for your intimate skin-on-skin contact is. Shen Qingqiu said, he's obsessed with the bamboo house. Luo Bing was all smiles as he nodded his head. Shen Qinghua, where do you want to attempt beep at? Shen Qingqiu said, Where do we not do it? There's no point in changing the location. Luo Bing casually said. Eyes on peak. The area turned dead silent. Luo Bing calmly said. Eyes on peak practice field. Shen Qingchu. Shen King Hua. Do you not want your life, or do you not want your sense of shame? Shen King Hua. When you beep, is there any kind of arrangement that you two have? Luo Bing. When it hurts, you definitely have to tell me. Definitely. Shen Qingchu. No crying. Shen King Hua. I say, have you two mistaken the meaning of the word arrangement? Shen King Hua. With regards to the way of thinking that even if you can't obtain their heart, at the very least you still have to obtain their beep. Do you approve of it, or oppose it? Shen Qingchu disapprovingly said. A loser. Loser's way of thinking. Luo Bing said. Without their heart, what's the point of wanting their beep? Shen King Hua felt endlessly saddened by this. Under his writing, Luo Bing was obviously an exceptional stallion that sought to satiate his bodily lust. The number of girls that he forcefully beeped was definitely in the 2 digits. He knew that in this strange world Luo Bing had become a homosexual, but just how did he progressively fall into this state? Shen King Hua, if the other person were to be forcefully beeped by a thug, what would you do? This question was too surreal. Shen Qingchu was speechless for quite a while before he said, who's so desperate as to forcefully beep him? Even if you wanna die, would it be totally out of the question to look for a more sad, beautiful, and overall better-looking way to die? Luo Bing gathered his sleeves and leisurely said, turn him into human swine, throw him into the endless abyss, and then think of some other methods to slowly use on him until he dies. Shen King Hua. If a good friend told you I'm very lonely, so just for tonight, please, and requests for intimate skin-on-skin contact, would you? Luo Bing apathetically said. I don't have that kind of honorless friend. I don't need friends. Shen Qingchu lowered his head and blew the tea leaves in his cup. He drank a mouthful before saying, I don't have any either. Luo Bing skeptically said. Is that so? Lu Shishu wouldn't do this kind of thing. Tea was sprayed all over the floor. Shen King Hua came back after changing into clean clothing and continued to ask questions. Do you think that you're good at making love? What about the other person? Shen Qingchu gave a hollow laugh. Luo Bing had tears in his eyes and looked like he wanted to cry. The moment Shen Qingchu saw his worry-filled face and painfully dismal appearance that seemed unable to say anything, his heart took pity on him. He turned towards Shen King Hua enraged. Why do you have to talk about someone's sore point? Pass. Shen King Hua picked his ear. In any case, you're going to blame me anyway. Shen King Hua. Do you have any interest in beep beep? Luo Bing said. What's that? Shizun, why is it that the things I'm unable to understand are increasing in number? Shen Qingchu said. Oh, he's asking if you like it when I hit you and yell at you, or would you feel something if I were to use a needle to stab you and use fire to burn you? Luo Bing appeared rather bashful as he softly said, since it's something that Shizun does, how could this disciple not like it? Shen King Hua clearly understood him and began to write. Luo Bing is very interested in beep beep. Shen King Hua. During sexual intercourse, what's something that's relatively painful for you? Luo Bing. Too small. Shen Qingchu. Too big. Shen King Hua inwardly screamed that both the master and disciple were shameless. He wrote down, natural understanding. Shen King Hua. Has there ever been a case where the show took the initiative to seduce? Shen Qingchu pointed at himself. Me? Do I look like that kind of person? Shen King Hua mumbled. Hard to say. Actually, you look pretty straight. Shen King Hua. Where do you like being kissed by the other person? Luo Bing said. Forehead, fingers, lips, everywhere. Shen Qingchu helplessly said. In truth, this child doesn't know to kiss, only to bite. Shen King Hua. What pleases the other person the most during beep? Shen Qingchu said. Praise him and say that he's improved. Luo Bing said, not crying. Shen Qinghua's writing brush moved like the wind as he absent-mindedly added a sentence. Shen Da's requirements are very low. Shen Qinghua. At that time what would you think of? Shen Qingqiu said. Who came up with this questionnaire? Do they have any experience? At that time, other than a mental blank, what else could you think of? Shen Qinghua. Do you take off the clothes yourself or does the other person help take them off? Shen Qingqiu said. If I were to let him take them off, I wouldn't have many clothes left that I could wear. Luo Bing explained. Shizun. At that time how could I control my strength? Shen Qinghua. Approximately how many times in one day? Shen Qingqiu felt a headache as he said. How many times? Who actually counts this? Shen Qinghua turned a page and had yet to ask the next question when Luo Bing, who had long lost his patience, gave a cold smile and said, if you really wanted to know, it'll be enough if I just count today and then tell you later. Sheng Shishu. As expected, Luo Bing was a man of action. If he said that he was going to count, then he was going to count. Shen Qinghua hadn't registered his words yet when he tugged Shen Qingqiu and said, forgive me for not keeping you company. Quote, he kicked the door open and left with a heroic spirit full of power and grandeur. A gale blew into the room and blew the pile of questionnaire answers that he had just written all over the floor. The corner of Shen Qinghua's mouth constantly twitched as he squatted down to pick up a few papers. After a while, he suddenly knelt down. Shen Da. The mission. Still haven't asked everything. System. Don't be so quick to deduct points, give me some time.